What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to another Resplendent review. Today I'll be taking a look at Brave Hector and gonna be going over the builds that he can run on him, and at the end, I'll have a special bonus segment. So Brave Hector is a Gen 2 Lance Armor, and he did get an amazing weapon refine in Maltet. So this refine was in 2020 and he was able to function as one of the best tanks in the game pretty much for like 2 years after his weapon refine. So this does give him minus in special cooldown, and it does have Surveillance Shield built in, so he's not going to be susceptible to any kind of armor effective damage, which is what made him stand out, especially for tanking stuff like Duochrome. And then if his HP is at or above 25% and foe initiates combat, then he's able to completely neutralize any kind of debuffs on himself, and he also gets a guaranteed follow-up attack. So before you could use the grand strategy of Legend Mail Robin, having this kind of debuff neutralization was really good because debuffs were only there to annoy you and you couldn't really use them productively with grand strategy. So this effect did help him as a tank. And then the weapon refine is active when the foe initiates combat or if foe's HP is at full. So he's able to debuff the foe for -6 attack and defense debuff in the combat, and he also has the follow-up negation. Nowadays, follow-up negation is not the biggest deal because everything has got some kind of null follow-up or half null follow-up, so they're able to bypass this kind of follow-up negation. But back then it did help him as a far safe tank. He does have a preferred skill in Ostian Counter, which does have distant counter built in, and in the enemy phase he's able to get +4 attack and defense. So it's a bit better than the regular distant counter, and it can still be helpful because he's going to be able to function as a far savior. Even though he doesn't have the highest resistance, still he does have that bulk with his HP, and also he does have the defense at base 41 now after the Resplendent stats. And even though he does get the Resplendent stats, it is still gonna be an uphill battle for him as a far savior. So nowadays he's gonna be used more so as a near savior because the range matchups are crazy tough for so many of the far saviors, even the new ones like Winter Byleth. So he's gonna be facing a ton of competition from those kinds of modern far saviors, and he's mainly going to be relegated to function as a near savior by making use of his defense. So Brave Hector had it pretty good until we started to get some insane nukes, and then he fell off. So nowadays it's going to be hard for him as a far savior, and a lot of the modern far saviors are going to be outperforming him even at unmerged, while Hector can be at plus in merges, and he's still going to be having a hard time with the insane nukes and the insane pre-combat damage that we've got nowadays. He's still a usable unit. It's not like he's extremely outdated, but it's just hard for him to be at the peak performance like he used to be when he got his weapon refine. And nowadays you can even mistake this kind of refine for an arcane weapon because we genuinely have got those kinds of weapons now. So Surveillance Shield built into this weapon is still going to be helping him as a far savior and as a near savior, because he doesn't really have to care about the armor effective damage, and Ostian Counter can always be let go for any kind of slotted skill that can help you in near saving. If you're going to be using him as a far savior, then you'll have to depend on the unpierceable damage reduction from specials like Aegis or Sacred Cowl, and you can just use him with Hardy Fighter. He does get the guaranteed follow-up attack with his weapon, so those other skills are going to be a lot easier for him to run compared to many of the other armor units. So Brave Hector was easily one of the best tanks of his time, but now it's a bit hard for tanking in general when it comes to taking on pre-combat nukes. So if you're going to be building him up right now, you can go with the Divine Code's 5 fodder and give him Special Fighter 4 and Defense Res Far Save. You could run Bonfire as the special, but Armored Beacon is going to be a lot better, which is going to be giving him that unpierceable damage reduction, and he can always retaliate back with Armored Beacon because of Special Fighter 4. And Special Fighter 4 is going to be giving him the special charges and the guard effect, which is helpful as a tank, and it also provides you with the healing, which is going to be helpful as the self-sustain, because unlike young Hector, he doesn't really get any kind of healing out of his slotted skill or out of his weapon. And because we have got really annoying damage reduction nukes, you might also want to run Special Spiral 4 in his slot B instead of running Special Fighter, so that he can pierce through the damage reduction. Maybe in the future we get some kind of fighter skill that has damage reduction piercing. That would be really helpful for Hector, but until then, you can just run Special Spiral 4 and loop Armored Beacon. So this way you can completely pierce the damage reduction of the nukes and it is going to be coming at the cost of not having the guard effect and missing out on the special charges and also the healing. But you could run Special Fighter in a Sacred Seal or even in Mystic Boost in a Sacred Seal depending on what you want. You can either go with the guard effect or the healing, but basically this is going to be something you'll be needing in several matchups because nukes have a lot of damage reduction. And if you do want to use him with the unpierceable damage reduction of Aegis, then Hardy Fighter is going to be the option, and Special Fighter could be run in a Sacred Seal so that he can just charge up Aegis on the double attack of the enemy. A lot of enemies are just going to be having null follow-up, so they're going to be getting past his follow-up negation, so making sure that he can trigger Aegis again in that same combat is going to be really helpful. And Armored Beacon, even though it does provide you with the unpierceable damage reduction, it is not really going to be helping you twice in a single round of combat, whereas Aegis can be helpful even against the double attacks of the enemies, and he can just focus on his bulk and go with the defense boon and the resistance boon. He does have a super boon on defense, so that could be helpful in some of the matchups. So these are the far savior builds, but far saving is going to be tough nowadays, and it is going to be getting even tougher for him as we get more of the insane nukes. But near saving is something that you can use him for. So you can use him with close defense 4 so that he can completely ignore any kind of visible buffs of the enemies. And Armored Blaze is also something you can run as a special. It's certainly going to be a lot harder to get compared to Armored Beacon, but until you get it, you can just run Bonfire and retaliate back with it because of having Special Fighter. And just replacing Ostian Counter is going to be the way to go for a near savior build. You can still take on a lot of the melee threats as they're usually not going to be as insane like the ranged threats. But if you want to go with the damage reduction in the special, then Pavis is going to be the option. And Earthfire Boost 3 is going to be something you can run in the slot A, which can give you more bulk and also the guard effect. So this way you can run Hardy Fighter, just pre-charge Pavis, and because of Steady Breath, you are going to be able to get Pavis on the double attack of the enemy. And you can even go with Escutcheon so that it's not all that necessary to get the breath effect out of the Sacred Seal, and you can run something else in the Sacred Seal slot. So that's also a way of doing about things, and these are going to be the builds for the near saving. And if I had to give him a remix and give him a better fine, then this is what I would do. It sounds a bit insane, but it is definitely going to be a big upgrade for him so that he can function in the modern times. So I'm going to be still having the minus and special cooldown and Svalent Shield in his weapon, and then he can get the -6 debuff on foes attack and defense from the primary effect of the weapon. He still has the debuff neutralization and the guaranteed follow-up attack, but he also gets the 30% damage reduction, which certainly helps nowadays, even though it is going to be completely pierceable. Then with the weapon refine, he's able to still have the debuffs and the follow-up negation, but he's able to get the scowl effect whenever his save skill triggers. So it kind of functions like the super scowl of Winter Pilot, but on a lower degree. So at least he's going to be able to get the scowl effect, which is so helpful for like any kind of tank, and especially for someone like him who doesn't really have the resistance to make use of the actual scowl resistance condition. So that's why it depends on the save skill usage. And then he can also neutralize any kind of visible buffs of the enemy's attack and defense, and then he heals up 7 HP after the combat. So this kind of weapon is going to be a much bigger upgrade for him, and it will let him far save a lot better. And far save is going to be the remix skill that he's going to be getting, and he also gets a remix to his Ostian counter too. So it is still going to be having distant counter built in, but now it gives him +7 attack, defense, and resistance, and it does have null counter disrupt built in. So he's going to be able to retaliate back to the sweep effects, which is a really valuable thing for a far savior. And then he also gets 50% damage reduction piercing in the combat. So with this kind of upgrade, he's going to be again really good. And I know that Maltet is still a good weapon to find, but as it goes with the tradition of these videos, I thought I would just give him the remix and see what happens of him as a tank. So let me know in the comments what you think about my theory craft. You can click the link on your screen right now to check out my review of the weapon refines that we've got this month. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Brave Hector against Dual Leon. So that's all. See you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.